Why does your brain replay embarrassing memories? Have you ever been lying in bed, ready to fall asleep, when your brain suddenly drags you back to a moment you wish had never happened? Maybe it was a joke that nobody laughed at. Maybe it was the time you tripped in public, said something awkward, or made a mistake in front of people you wanted to impress. The strange thing is that these memories can remain vivid for years, sometimes even decades. Your face still feels warm when you think about them. Your stomach still tightens, and you can't help but wonder why your brain seems determined to preserve these uncomfortable moments while forgetting countless ordinary days. Why do embarrassing memories stay with us for so long? And why do they sometimes feel more real than things that happened just yesterday? This question matters because almost everyone experiences it. No matter your age, background, or personality, there is a good chance that your mind contains a collection of embarrassing moments that appear without invitation. What's even stranger is that many of these events were relatively small. They didn't change the course of history. They didn't alter the lives of the people around you. Yet your brain treats them as if they deserve a permanent place in memory. Understanding why this happens can reveal something fascinating about how our minds work. It can also help us see ourselves more clearly and perhaps become a little kinder to ourselves when old mistakes come rushing back. To understand why embarrassing memories linger, we first need to understand how memory works. Many people imagine memory as a giant storage room where every experience is carefully filed away. In reality, your brain is far more selective than that. Every day, you encounter thousands of sights, sounds, conversations, and experiences. If your brain stored everything equally, it would quickly become overwhelmed. Instead, it constantly decides what deserves attention and what can safely fade away. Surprisingly, this decision is not based primarily on logic. It is based on emotion. The stronger the emotional reaction attached to an event, the more likely your brain is to mark it as important. Think about your day yesterday. You probably saw dozens of objects, heard many sounds, and experienced countless small moments. Yet most of those details are already disappearing from memory. Now compare that to an embarrassing moment from years ago. Chances are you can recall it with remarkable clarity. You may remember where you were standing, who was present, and exactly how you felt. This happens because emotion acts like a highlighter for the brain. When something triggers a strong emotional response, your mind pays closer attention. It assumes that whatever caused that reaction might be important for your future survival and therefore deserves to be remembered. Embarrassment is especially powerful because it involves more than simply making a mistake. It involves making a mistake in a social setting. Human beings are deeply social creatures. For most of human history, survival depended on belonging to a group. Being accepted meant safety, cooperation, and support. Being rejected could lead to isolation and danger. Because of this, our brains evolved to monitor social situations very carefully. Even today, your mind constantly pays attention to how others might perceive you. Most of the time, this process happens automatically, without conscious effort. But when something embarrassing occurs, your brain suddenly becomes highly alert. It interprets the event as a potential threat to your social standing. Imagine accidentally spilling a glass of water when you're alone in your kitchen. It might annoy you for a few seconds, but you will probably forget about it quickly. Now imagine spilling that same glass of water while giving a presentation in front of a crowded room. Suddenly, the experience feels completely different. The action itself is almost identical, yet the social context changes everything. The possibility that others witnessed your mistake creates a much stronger emotional reaction. Your brain treats the event as significant because it appears connected to how other people may view you. As a result, the memory receives special attention and becomes far more likely to stick around. However, the story does not end there. One reason embarrassing memories become so persistent is that people replay them repeatedly. After an awkward experience, many of us spend hours or even years thinking about what happened. We imagine alternative outcomes. We replay conversations in our heads. We wonder what we should have said or done differently. Every time we revisit the memory, we strengthen it. Imagine walking across a grassy field. The first time, there is barely a visible path. But if you walk the same route over and over again, a clear trail begins to form. The same thing happens inside your mind. Repeated attention makes certain memories easier to access, which means they are more likely to return in the future. This creates a powerful cycle. The memory appears because it is strong, and it becomes stronger because it appears. Over time, the event may start to feel larger than it actually was. A moment that lasted only a few seconds can occupy years of mental space. The embarrassment itself may have ended long ago, but the repeated replaying keeps the emotional experience alive. In some cases, people remember the feeling of embarrassment more vividly than the event itself. What began as a brief mistake gradually transforms into a permanent mental reference point. Yet there is another fascinating reason these memories feel so intense. Human beings often overestimate how much other people notice and remember their mistakes. Imagine giving a speech and accidentally stumbling over a word. To you, the mistake feels enormous. You notice it immediately. You think about it afterward. You replay it in your mind throughout the day. But most of the people listening may barely register it. Some may not notice it at all. Others may forget about it within minutes because they are focused on their own thoughts and concerns. The event occupies your attention because it happened to you, but it may hold almost no importance to anyone else. This tendency comes from the fact that we experience life from our own perspective. We are at the center of our own awareness, so our actions naturally feel more significant than they appear to others. It can sometimes feel as though a giant spotlight is shining on us, highlighting every mistake we make. In reality, most people are busy thinking about themselves. They are worried about their own problems, their own insecurities, and their own embarrassing moments. The awkward incident that still bothers you today may have completely vanished from everyone else's memory years ago. Understanding this can be surprisingly liberating because it reveals that the audience we imagine is often much smaller than we think. Unfortunately, embarrassing memories can have consequences beyond temporary discomfort. Sometimes people allow old mistakes to shape future decisions. A person who was laughed at during a presentation may avoid speaking in public. Someone who experienced social rejection may become hesitant to meet new people. An awkward moment can quietly influence confidence and behavior for years. The memory remains active, not because the event still matters, but because the emotional impact was never fully processed. Without realizing it, people may build limitations around experiences that should have remained small and temporary. At the same time, embarrassment is not entirely negative. In fact, it serves an important purpose. Embarrassment helps us learn from social situations. It encourages self-awareness and helps us understand how our actions affect others. Without the ability to feel embarrassed, people might repeat the same mistakes without reflection. The problem is not embarrassment itself. The problem arises when we treat a single embarrassing moment as evidence of who we are. One awkward interaction does not define your personality. One mistake does not determine your worth. One uncomfortable memory does not summarize your entire life. Consider the people you admire most. Successful speakers, performers, athletes, business leaders, and creators all have embarrassing stories. They have failed publicly. They have made mistakes. They have experienced rejection and awkward moments. The difference is not that they avoided embarrassment. The difference is that they refused to let those moments become permanent definitions of themselves. They recognize that mistakes are part of being human. Instead of seeing embarrassment as proof of failure, they viewed it as proof that they were participating in life, taking risks, and learning through experience. Perhaps the most important thing to remember is that embarrassing memories often reveal growth rather than weakness. When you look back at an old mistake and cringe, it usually means you have changed since then. You see the situation differently because you have gained new knowledge, maturity, or understanding. The version of you who made that mistake no longer exists in exactly the same form. In a strange way, embarrassment can be evidence of progress. If you never looked back and saw room for improvement, it might mean you had stopped growing altogether. So the next time your brain decides to replay an awkward memory from years ago, pause for a moment before judging yourself. Remember that your mind is simply doing what it was designed to do. It remembers emotionally charged experiences more easily than ordinary ones. It strengthens memories through repetition. It pays special attention to situations involving social acceptance and rejection. Most importantly, it often exaggerates how much other people remember your mistakes. The embarrassing moment that still feels enormous in your mind may have become completely irrelevant to everyone else long ago. In the end, embarrassing memories are not proof that something is wrong with you. They are proof that you are human. They show that you care about your place in the world, that you learn from experience, and that your mind is constantly trying to help you navigate social life. The next time an old memory suddenly appears, perhaps you don't need to fight it. Perhaps you can simply acknowledge it, smile at it, and let it pass. After all, the moments that haunt us most are often far less important than we imagine. And the fact that you can still remember them doesn't mean they define your story. It simply means you're still growing beyond them.